Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Savage Goose Show, where we talk about all things Savage Worlds from the past week. I'm joined today by Brandon from Star Anvil Studios. Say hi, Brandon.
Hello, Brandon. Jokes.
Brandon's going to be talking about with us about the new Kickstarter for the Secret World in North America. But before we get into that, we have a few other things we're going to talk about. First, let's go ahead and jump into the newsletter from Pinnacle. All right, so the first thing is just kind of heads up about the Deadlands Lost Colony Kickstarter, I think through BackerKit. This is another Lost Colony campaign, plot point campaign. Feel free to take a look at this if you're interested. There's a link to this down below. The California Wildfire Relief Bundle. This is a bundle that's being created to help support the wildfires in California. There's a lot of Savage Worlds content in this bundle. It's not just Savage Worlds content, but there's a lot of it, including some stuff from Star Anvil Studios. So if you're interested in was it the Starbreaker? I believe Starbreaker's in there, correct?
Starbreaker, the base Secret World book for 5e and for Savage Worlds.
There you go.
I mean,
So
yeah, that. Sorry.
yeah. So if you're interested in either of those two settings from Star Anvil Studios, you can check that out. I am super excited to get my hands on the Star Anvil Studios, the Starbreaker one, the print copy of Starbreaker. So, but if you're looking into just getting a bunch of PDFs, if you're like someone that likes to collect a lot of those, there's a lot of stuff in there. There's also the core rules for Savage Worlds. So if for some reason you're watching the stream and you do not have the core rules for Savage Worlds, the cool rules for Savage Worlds is in this game, in this bundle, and you can also get all the other cool settings as well. So it's a really good bundle. There's like a lot of really good PDFs in there for $25. So check it out. You can see all the list here. Yeah, so we got man, yeah, it's so much. Core rules, and then Secret World, Titan Effect, Starbreaker, Day After Ragnarok, Odysseys and Overlords, Hellbind. Just those are the ones that call out to me immediately, because the ones I recognize. So yeah, check it out. We are in the final day, according to this, not just final days, day. So today is your last day to fix your pledge manager for the science fiction companion Kickstarter before things are going to be shipped out. So go check that out. Make sure you have everything you want in there. Make sure your address is correct, and just make sure everything's fixed. You don't want to not get your books. You want to get them. You pay for them. Get them. The Deadlands Town Map Pack 2 plus a reloaded sale is on Steam and Fantasy Grounds. So again, if you use Fantasy Grounds or Steam's version of Fantasy Grounds, there's a lot of cool products over there that you can go check out. Hey, later this week on Savage Universe, I guess Brandon's going to be checking them out too, right?
Of course, I'm everywhere.
So if there's anything that you don't get answered in today's stream, watch the stream, learn whatever you need to learn. If anything you don't learn that you want to know about either the existing product or the upcoming product, go over to that stream and you can ask your questions to him there. So this is like a little pre-warm up to get all your questions out for Brandon. This is also the final week, because it's the final week of January. It's the final week for Noom Game Master Month. If you have any questions about using Savage Worlds or any other game systems that are being hosted by the New Game Master Month, like the Cypher system through Numenera, and there's a few other ones, Tales of the Valiant is on there as well. You can go check out the Discord server and the Facebook group and hopefully learn some more information about these RPGs. And with that, we just have our Kickstarter crowdfunding status report. We are all done with Deadlands. Science Fiction Companion is preparing to ship, which is why this is the last day for the Pledge Manager. And then after that, we'll get our Pathfinder for Savage Worlds boosters. We'll get the Abominable Northwest pledges, and then the next Kickstarter is for Lost Colony. All right, let's stop sharing. I'm going to switch back to this. That's all the news I have, so I have no other news, but there are some new products I wanted to mention. There's actually one new product I wanted to pull out. This is just one new product that really stood out to me. I'm not sure entirely why, probably because it's a little synthwave looking-y, and that is Cthulhu Vice. And I think it's just part of the aesthetic, but it's got this old, 80s, it's based on Miami Vice, adding a little bit of Cthulhu with occult crimes, and maybe it's just me just putting the colors together. It's probably the colors, but it made me think of Street Wolves, and so I'm like, oh man, what if you put Cthulhu and Street Wolves? So
I
maybe
mean,
there's
that
something
sounds
there. I
cool,
don't know.
actually.
Hmm?
That sounds cool, actually.
I think that sounds like a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, check that out. Let's see. And going back to our next up is our Kickstarter. So ending Saturday, February 22nd, Secret Worlds for North America. Secret Worlds North America, I should say, not for North America. This is both the 5e version and the Savage Worlds version, which we'll talk about more next after we're done with all this other stuff. But that's when it ends. We'll be mentioning it every week until it ends. Coming sometime in February is Deadlands Lost Colony for Mad World. We don't know exactly what date yet. I haven't seen a date posted yet, so just be on the lookout for that. You can go to the link down below to sign up to be notified when that happens. Monster Truckers from Tabletop Games, the makers of Street Wolves, is coming soon. This is, to be clear, this is not a Savage Worlds game. This is actually a Tri-Cube Tales game. That was my bad for misunderstanding that. Nowhere did it was communicated that it was a Savage Worlds game. I just, for some reason, assumed it. That's totally my bad. Nevertheless, a lot of people who make Savage Worlds content make a lot of Tri-Cube Tales content. And if you're familiar with Tri-Cube Tales, it's made by Zadmar, who is pretty well known in the Savage Worlds community. So we're still going to have Paul Vincent on at some point to talk about this particular game in this upcoming Kickstarter. And speaking of Paul and Tabletop Games, this week's monthly Ace Spotlight is Street Wolves Turbo Edition, just because I think it's a great game. I really like the product. I really think it's a great story. It's got a lot of really cool little systems in here. I really like what they did with hacking in the system, and also like hacking with VR. And kind of still framing it inside of the late 90s, or late 80s, I should say, early 90s, and giving like everything like that. It describes everything as being like wireframe and how to do combat inside the system and how to do file manipulation. And it talks about data file sizes that you can manipulate. But when it talks about them, it talks about the terms like floppy disk size. So a small file is like part of a floppy, and if you know how much is on a floppy, it's not a lot of data.
1.25 megabytes or 1.5 megabytes.
Yeah, I think like the floppy. Remember like the floppies I had in the 90s were like 3 megabytes maybe. I remember I was trying, and I didn't understand at the time that you couldn't like reuse floppies, so I would put stuff on them, and then it'd be like, and that was it, they're gone, done. It was like a one picture. So why was I using floppies? I don't know. It's because I had them. So check that out. And with that, new project products. We're going to talk about the Secret World. So I'm going to stop sharing here. Brandon, thanks for joining us today to talk about the Secret World.
Thank you.
So just to kind of get us started, can you just give me your elevator pitch for what is the Secret World? Like what is the setting? What is it about? I know it's based on a video game. I played it briefly, but can you just tell us like your elevator pitch for what the Secret World is?
I mean, the tagline "Everything is true" is a good initial summary. Of course, that doesn't say a whole lot, but it's that whole thing that the world, all these conspiracy theories and cryptids and all these strange things that we on the fringe of are supposedly real, but the experts say they're not, and all that stuff is real in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that Cthulhu type horror, along with just that monster that lives down here. All those things are going on, and the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and you get to play a character who can maybe slow it down for one more day. You're not so much fixing things as you're patching the holes as best you can.
Sure.
So, and you play these immortal characters called bees. That has to do with a lot of the lore, why they call them that. But, you have these abilities that you're gifted. So I kind of call it heroic horror because, you're immortal and you can keep coming back and you can keep fighting it. But at the same time, there's always that oppressive, well, it's happening again. What can I do to stop it? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned that you called it heroic horror. that's I think that you guys called that in the book so well. How does how do you how does the game build on that horror mechanically? How does it like make the players feel that horror?
I mean, that really, anytime you look at that mechanically, I don't think we put a lot in the game. That's really more storytelling or
Mm-hmm.
something you might want to look in the horror companion for more mechanics on that. We focused on giving you all the things you need to play the types of characters to the lore of the world. I mean, there's not a lot of direct mechanics overall in that. There is, as your character, if they die and they come back, every time they die, there is the mechanic that you're slowly losing a piece of yourself if you come back right away, to where you're slowly losing yourself to not have control. You can lose your character essentially. You
Mm.
can't die, but you can lose control of your character. And I think if I were when I GM something like that, I would be expressing that to the characters like the little voices in your head telling you to make this decision, but you're giving up a piece of, well, let's say a piece of your soul. That's probably not the best analogy, but it
Mm-hmm.
works.
Okay, cool.
The other horror is going to just come down to, really, again, not mechanically. It's just building it to make sure these players have, what do they care about in their relationships that you're making sure that they don't want to see destroyed.
Mm.
So,
Real quick, Brandon, Todd is saying that your audio is a little quiet.
mm,
Um, Well, I can hear you. I can just want to see if there's maybe anything we can do to increase your audio. Have you all the way up on my side?
yeah, I don't have any boost on my mic.
Is there any way to, I don't know, maybe get your mic a little closer to your face or anything?
A little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just have to work with that. Sorry, Todd. Hopefully that helps a little bit. We can get you
Let's
that
see.
taken care of.
I'm just looking to see if there's anything. I don't. I usually mess with much of that on my desk at all, so I don't really, and I haven't had any issues before, so I don't know what I can do to boost that. Sorry.
All right. All right. Cool. Um, let's see here. So, one of the things that we talked in one of the key features I think of the game in my mind, reading my particular copy, and you'll see on my copy I got the like nice Templar cup version. Is that there are multiple factions. A lot of games, when I think of like of other games that are like Monster Hunter type games, they tend to be multi-factional, right? There's a whole bunch of different or sorry, they tend to do one faction, not multi-faction. Can you explain briefly, like maybe one why there's different factions, and then two what's different about each faction and how they handle this end of the world type stuff?
So the reason there's different factions, I think, really, the gameplay is because it came from a video game. They want to give people different options, but in the world, the lore setting
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
is
lore.
each one sort of has a different view on how things should be. I mean, the Illuminati, they really focus on, they want power. I mean, that's where their focus. And these things that are happening in the world can threaten their power. So they deal with those things because they want to keep their control. The
Mm-hmm.
Templar are kind of order focused, and some of them may see themselves as those that bring order and justice to the world. They're a bit over authoritarian, though, depending on how you look at it. So, I mean, to be fair, there are no good guys in the secret world. There's no real good guy group. They
Mm-hmm.
have different ways of approaching it. The Templars believe, hey, we know the right way for the world, and you should listen to us. Um, and the Dragon believe that bringing through chaos, they'll find the patterns and make things and help control things. So they're the ones that seem to, they'll sow chaos for the purpose of making things better. But again, that chaos can cause a lot of destruction, but they see it as bettering things by doing so. I mean, so it's going to be very it's different ways for the player when you join one of those how you'll approach any given situation. The Illuminati might want you to bring back a monster because, oh, if you bring back that monster, we can study it and maybe get some benefit out of it. And it's not all monster hunting, maybe this is an example. The Templar will absolutely want that monster destroyed, and the Dragon might be, hey, let it keep doing what it's doing for a little while longer. Let's see what the chaos brings, or maybe they want to stop it, but maybe they'll let it start over here because they see that some kind of long-term benefit might come out of that. That's a real rudimentary way to explain it, but
Sure. And these three. I mean, it's not just these three factions. I believe there's other factions as well, right? Like the Venetians, correct? Or
There's the
like
Phoenicians, there's the Council of Venice, which is kind of like an overall group for it, and Orochi is another faction, although not in the more traditional sense of these other. That's more of the big evil corporation type thing.
okay,
Um, and there are other factions, smaller factions, lesser known factions. The Church of the Morning Light, and and any other faction or conspiracy group that you can think of exists probably exists in this world. What we've dealt with so far in the books, though, is focusing on the big three at
sure.
first, is what we're trying to do, and build out. You can only put so much in a single book each time, so.
Yeah.
And this one is going to deal with North America, the continent, and the Illuminati faction primarily. But there's like sub factions, like the Boston Witches, that aren't part of the Illuminati or anything, but they're a small faction we'll include in the book to give you a different viewpoint to look at things from, so you can play. You don't have to play quite the worldwide conspiracy every time.
Now you mentioned that everyone plays as a B, regardless of faction. You play as a B, and obviously if the reason that they're called B is for a, like I said, a particular lore reason. But all these Bs are connected in some way. Can you talk about what's connecting all these different agents from all these different factions that causes them to work together?
So number one, they may not work together. That's really a player and GM decision. They may hate each other.
Sure.
But for if you're going to play a game and you're going to allow multi-faction playing, you have to find a reason to work together, and that would usually come down to, the bees themselves, Gaia, the world engine, the thing that's kind of holding the world together. Let's say, has empowered you because there's a problem in the world, and they're trying to use you to fix that problem. You're like the antivirus. You're the patchwork that this thing is trying to do to save the world, and that's why there's more bees than ever before, because it's so much the problems have gotten worse. And so, and part of the reason they call you a bee, amongst many other things, the way the game does it, you see in the beginning of the game, in the cutscene, the video game, a bee flies in your mouth. That's like the power being imbued into you. It's sort of like a dream sequence, and you wake up with powers. And
And that's
so
from Gaia.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'll see that a bee doesn't have to want to work with others, but sometimes you could as a player or as a GM do it with the whole, you all see this problem together, and that you're getting that, that ability, you see these problems. Whereas the factions want the bees because they're powerful, they want to control them because that's a resource. So they bring you in if they can.
So do factions tend to if you have like, let's say like the Templars, right? Is everyone who's a member of these factions a bee, or are there many members of these factions are not bees?
Oh, many of them are not.
Okay.
Bees, while there are more than ever before, are still not going to be like common enough that a faction is filled with bees. You're still the exception. I mean, if there were thousands of you in the world, it still wouldn't be that many with billions of people.
Sure,
you
sure.
know. But your powers, what you can do, is so large, outsized. I mean, you could take on depending on how skilled you are, but your character could take on a small army. I mean, although you wouldn't want to run straight into the bullets, you could still take them on.
Right. So, okay, cool. So getting into the rules. So you got a little overview of the setting. You're monster hunters, but you've got your different factions that you're working with, all working for Gaia in the end, in a sense, to take out these monsters and these problems. Looking at the rules, obviously we're going to specifically talk about the Savage Worlds versions of the rules. You have the Savage Worlds versions and the 5e versions. So if you guys for some reason you're not wanting to do Savage Worlds, you can go to the 5e version. Obviously, I got the Savage Worlds version, and so we're going to talk a little about those mechanics real quick, just if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, why like 5e? I think
there's my cover. I put the bee honeycomb on it.
Nice. Obviously, 5e makes sense. I think we talked about this in the past. Like 5e was a decision for just because 5e is like the most popular system, and therefore it just kind of makes sense.
It was
but why
most
Savage
likely
Worlds?
to fund, so
yeah, right. But why Savage Worlds? Why do you like Savage Worlds for this setting?
Well, I mean, so the advantage to Savage Worlds for the setting, as opposed to 5e, I mean, they both have their built-in advantages and different playstyles. So focusing on Savage Worlds, its main advantage is because, for example, in the video game, you don't really have a class. you have abilities you pick up. And Savage Worlds is very similar to that. You're not stuck in a certain class.
Hmm.
So that we were able to more easily simulate sort of the feel of how those characters work. For example, when you pick up a weapon, when you got to get the edge for it because it's Savage Worlds. When you
Hmm.
get the edge for a certain weapon, you get a set of powers automatically associated with that weapon, rather than having to be like, oh, I first I got to be this class, then that class, and so on. You
Mm.
just get the weapon, you have the abilities, um, and edges, and it's allows for a more flexible character creation that really allowed us to. We don't want to copy the video game, but we wanted to emulate enough of it that people got like, well, that reminds me of what it was like to play the game.
Mm.
But it's also set up so if you've never played the video game, it's just as easy to play. You don't need that reference, but it kind of gives those who did play a little bit of a feel for that.
Right. Makes sense. And yeah, so you mentioned classes, and one of the things that's kind of like a little bit different. I'm gonna say different. I mean this in a good way, or maybe a neutral way, not a bad way. Is that you guys have the archetypes in here as like
Mm-hmm.
as different packages for
Mm-hmm.
different characters, and I think when I first looked at this, I remember thinking, oh, we basically have classes, but it's not really classes, right? It's just like you said, kind of it's packages. I think is
Mm-hmm.
what you guys say in the book, and where it's just you have different starting attributes, but after your starting attributes, you really have the freedom to kind of really choose whatever you want,
Yeah,
right?
it's a slightly buffed up package. You could still build a character from scratch without using that package at all. And we gave rules for that too. The
Hmm.
packages just really make it easy to sit down and play and go, oh, that sounds like what I want to play. Just like any pre-gen or archetype. I mean,
Right, right.
it's just assembled in a way that makes it like, oh, I want to play today. Put it down in front of me. Let's go.
There
That
we go.
looks great to me.
Yeah, I remember when I first found Savage Worlds in general, I was coming from D&D, and I was trying I was saw archetypes. And I was like, how does this work? And I had a hard time personally in the old books. This is the back in deluxe edition, putting that connection together. The archetypes were not the replacement for classes. It was
Right.
just an option to build your character this way and show off things you can do with your character in Savage Worlds. So and I think that's really cool. Let's see here. So sorry about that. So let's for I guess first off, is there anything else that you want to talk about as far as the first book, the original book, with the core rules?
I mean, I really think that our favor system was kind of neat because
Mm.
when you're working for a big society like that, you're not how much money do I have? Did I kill 10 guys and get gold from them or something? I have a day job. Do I have enough money to get a plane ticket? How do I pay for my food? That's not something we really want to make the focus of the game.
Hmm.
Albeit you can play Real World 2.0 if you want.
Eh,
But
I'll pass.
um, so we gave the favor system where it shows like if you want a favor from something, it kind of gives you like if you want this amount of money resources, you have to have a certain level of favor where your chance will tell you what your chances of getting that resource and how quick you'll get that resource. So I need a bulldozer. Why do you need a bulldozer? I need it tomorrow. Odds are not good you'll get that. But if you have a high enough favor and they have the resources, they'll make it happen. You just roll your die. So it's a way to allow the players to be able to get things they need without them tracking money all the time. It's essentially a version of a wealth system that a lot of games have done, but
Hmm.
we're really abstracting it because really money isn't the issue. You need the resource, which could be money, but it's more likely to be a thing or getting to a place.
Yeah, yeah. There's something nice about using like some sort of other system for wealth that's not just money, because sometimes it becomes, like you said, too abstract, and sometimes economies in games just don't really work out that well in the first place. So, and then you just get kind of bogged down with doing spreadsheet RPG
Yeah,
instead of just playing the game.
it
So
it
it's nice to see
it
those kind of systems in place where you can just use, like you said, favor or like the wealth die in the core rule
yeah.
book, and just using that way instead. So
And
that's
if you
that's good.
really want to do some kind of money-based thing, I mean, because it's set in basically the real world, more or less today, you can just go on the internet and say, I want this, and I stole this from the ATM. The GM could say, sure, you succeeded and you stole enough money, or you you hack the internet, whatever. I mean, it's not that hard with this. We're not doing the fantasy, we're not doing the far future to kind of get an estimate of what those things would be. So, building a price sheet with modern goods in it is just like not really the space we want to put into the book.
Right.
So.
No, absolutely makes sense. So the new Kickstarter is for North America, and this is like the first expansion guide into the secret world, where you're kind of detailing a particular region.
Right.
And I believe that the new things that were put into the Kickstarter is like new locations, new cryptids, new player options, and there's new something else. What am I missing?
Locations, monsters, new adventures, new
Adventures.
mhm.
That was the one I forgot. Sorry. Give me 1 second.
It's okay, I'm yawning, but that's just because I've had a long day. It's not you. I literally came straight home from work and got right on here with you guys. So yay!
Say thank you, Brandon, to everybody.
I get to get up at 5 a.m. again tomorrow.
I'm so sorry. Well, so yeah, so sorry, I lost my train of thought. So there's going to be some new adventures, new cryptids. What are some of the cryptids that we are specifically going to be looking at in North America? I mean, obviously, I can think of a whole bunch of ones that I can think of personally.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sasquatch, Jersey Devil. I had a whole list in front of me at one point, but I don't have it right now.
Mothman, I think.
He's already in the first.
Oh, he's
one,
he's in this one. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but things like that. I mean, we have a list of like 10 we started with, and depending on how well Kickstarter does, I would love to add a few more monsters. I'd like to get up to I like to add about 20, and they won't necessarily all be monsters. I mean, but specifically because Secret World isn't just about hunting monsters, but it's one aspect of the game that
Sure.
a lot of people enjoy. So we want to make sure we include that. But there'll be other threats or foes. Like I want to put in some more detail from the Orochi, which is a common thing the players can encounter. We didn't get a lot of those stats in the original book, so we'll probably add some here or into the what we'll call the Secret World Expanded, which is the stretch goal PDF we want to add for things that we may not feel fit directly in the book, but we still want people to be able to have.
Sure. Okay. So that raises a good question of what are the other threats that people keep facing? You mentioned the Orochi. You mentioned earlier the Boston Witches. Is that a threat or more of an ally, or does it really depend on what faction you're part of?
So the Boston Witch can be all of the above. So we will have them in there as a player option.
Okay.
We'll have them as a faction. If you're not playing that faction, the GM could definitely use that faction as a antagonist or an ally or neutral. If it depends how you treat them.
Sure.
So that could go either way, depending on what's important to them. Like the thing about factions, they what you really have to make sure is you understand which each have different goals. So that's where you can kind of decide what it's going to be, an ally, antagonist, if you got to barter with them, whatever. And then if we've already made the Boston Witches as a playable, there's no reason why we can't put a couple versions of them in there also as a potential antagonist, monster, NPC, whatever you want to call it, a threat for the players and GM to encounter or GM to use.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
okay.
all of the above. And there's just some things we kind of bat around some ideas, but we're not talking about yet until we see where things go, and for sure we want to put that in there, kind of thing. So
cool. Now you did say, as you said, there's going to be some new adventures. What do those adventures look like, especially if they're just focused on North America?
Well, we have the 3 adventures we're adding is a multi-part. You'd call it. I would call it like a mini campaign because they'll be related. It's more like 3 Savage Tales that are going to Stoneward Bound. The initial adventure kind of sets the group and puts them together if you want to use that as a basis, but you wouldn't need to.
Okay.
We're going to start a story arc that we have an outline for. I would say it is mostly approved. So until it's fully approved, I don't want to give too many. If we were going through with FunCom getting approvals, but
Sure.
we have an idea that when we started this of why the timeline is slightly different in this than the video game.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want to do is these first 3 adventures are going to set that arc up. as to why the world has changed and what the characters are going to do to either preserve it as it is or try and fix it in some way. Again, details we're not giving out yet on that, but and then what we want to do with each book thereafter is keep adding another adventure to it to eventually basically do a plot point campaign over the books. So it'll take a while, but I mean that's the idea, to keep having these arcs. So we're going to try and do a three-parter at first to really set it up, and then just each book will add to that story.
Sure.
And then we have the mission pack, which is just 12 one sheets basically all over the world. They're not necessarily confined to North America. What we just want to do there is, because even though it's North America, the Secret World is it's a worldwide game. So we thought, well, we had them done. I was going to initially release them one at a time, and they'll still be available in single version later. But what I thought is, like, let's put this in the Kickstarter and give it to the GMs now, because that way you have the first adventure, we have Contagion, the 3 new adventures, plus 12. Well, that's 17 adventures. Most people, that's a year of gaming. Not everyone, depends how often they game, but a lot of people getting 20 games in a year, with no interruptions, no breaks. Every 2 weeks.
I mean,
that's a pretty solid game.
I definitely get 20 games in a year, but they're all like they're 2 hours a week. So shorter game sessions. I know that most people do. Most people
if you're doing that, and you take a one sheet, you're playing that. It takes you 2 sessions to complete a one sheet. We do have you for the whole year.
Yep, there you go. Perfect. I said so. Usually, we usually get through one sheets in one session of 2 hours, but that really depends on the player group. So
yeah.
Cool. So Venkel brought up a monster that I'm curious about, and when I think about North America, this definitely makes sense. And that's about Area 51 and aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything about Area 51 in the North American book, or in the lore of the game?
Aliens, as we think of them as sci-fi creatures, don't really fit the Secret World.
Okay.
So if there's an alien, it's rooted more in more of a cosmic Cthulhu-esque background that's cloaked in what we think it is. Is Area 51 in the book? I've been debating if I want to put it in there and how I want to put it in there yet, but we have the outline of everything we're already going to put in the book. Again, we're kind of like, but when we're done writing, we say, do we have a little more room? Can we also add this? Can we also add that? Like, we have a little of a wish list of things there. Area 51's kind of more on the wish list right now. And it would be fun to really do something with that. But anything we want to do, and it's not negative, we just have to take those ideas and go, hey, we have these other ideas. We got to get it to FunCom. Here's the idea we want to use. And they say, yes, that fits. No, that doesn't fit. And they're great. It just takes time to get approvals. But
Sure.
The core stuff is pretty set. So the main cities that we have lined up are all good to go. And we just want to delve into a little bit of the lore in each of the world. So each of the locations.
Yeah, and that's really cool. So I'm going to ask one more question before we get into the questions from the audience. And that question is just, what is the thing that you're most excited about from the new book?
I kind of like, a lot of people have asked to play an option that wasn't a B, right? And so I was like, well, those new options, we got the Mystic, the Boston Witch, and while they're still part of a conspiracy group, the Illuminati operative, that's going to be a normal human. So these people aren't immortal. That takes that whole aspect out of the game for those people. I mean, witches might have a power they could work on, whatever. But I mean, typically speaking, you can die, which will put the whole different way for people to experience the game, because they don't have to play as part of the grand conspiracy, but they can still be dealing with really crazy stuff, which I think some people want that more Cthulhu hardcore, you can die type thing. That will allow people to explore the world in that way as well, which with the video game, of course, they just stuck to their main setup. They weren't going to keep adding all these other options, but in a role-playing game, we can explore these ideas.
Sure.
I think that's pretty cool. For those who wanted something like that.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Because obviously the video game is like, that's the point. You are a B, et cetera, et cetera. But because we're just working inside a framework of the world in a tabletop role-playing game, we can try to be those other characters that, like we were talking about earlier. Is everybody in a faction a B? No. Okay, cool. Well, in this game, because this is a typical role-playing game, we can do essentially whatever we want. And for you guys, within the lore of the world, you can just play not a B. So that is a cool thing to hear, that that's going to be an option in the game. That's actually really exciting to hear. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to go and ask, look at the things here. First off, I have to ask, what is your favorite faction, or what do you think is the best faction? I'll ask the question the way it's worded here.
So best faction is all relative what you like. I like the Templars the most.
Okay.
Because they dress the best. I mean, literally that was my reason for playing the Templars when I started. I thought their uniforms looked cooler. Um, I mean, I didn't like the way that the dragon played when I was playing it. To start with, it wasn't bad. It just I didn't get into it at first. So I ended up liking Templar. My wife played the Illuminati and she played the dragon. She played all three to level 50 in the video game. But for me, it was just I like the Templar and it's sort of that paladin-esque mindset. It's not really what they are, but it was fun for me that way. And it's what's great is it's also the gunslinger. That was
Mm.
the class in the game, or the archetype in the game. So what I found interesting with that was also Shane Hensley's favorite. So I did send him a archetype with just the gunslinger on it, Templar. He has the only copy of that.
The only copy of a custom cover with just the gunslinger.
Of that actual archetype.
Oh,
We did
okay.
a sheet for him and sent it to him because
Oh, gotcha,
he
gotcha.
did the he was nice enough to write the intro in the book for us. So that was I was like, hey, here's a little thank you because I thought that was really awesome. Take time out of his day to help one of the aces like that. So
Yeah, yeah. I actually was rereading the forward this morning. Not this morning, but earlier today. I was rereading the forward about him talking about his time over at what was the name of the company he was at, Cryptic Studios, and
yes,
um,
also
who,
makers of City of Heroes.
yeah, which is one of the few MMOs that required a subscription that I did play for a bit,
Fantastic
and
game.
so yeah, back when I was playing a lot of MMOs, I didn't have money, so
Mm.
now that I have money, I'm playing tabletop.
Yeah, of course, and that takes a lot of money too
Mm.
because we wanted to.
Let's see here. Going through the questions here. Also, there's some questions about your background, but I'll ask those at the end. So the Vinkel asked, is the North American book just an Illuminati book, or is there options for Templars and Dragons? And will there be a plot point campaign? You kind of answered there's not a campaign, but there's going to be some adventures.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the player options, is it just Illuminati, or is there going to be options for other factions? We kind of talked about that a little bit, but if you want to answer that more
So yeah,
specifically.
we're expanding on the Illuminati organization, their goals, and what they're doing in North America, and North America as a whole to explore and adventure in, so to speak, or do missions in. Everyone to look at it. It is not going to have specific options for other factions. That's why it's, the North America we're doing Illuminati. We will do Europe and do Templar. We will do Asia and do Dragon. And when you say something like North America or whatever, just keep in mind we can't cover all of that. So we're hitting highlights in these sections. So you say Asia, that's a lot. You
That's
say even
it.
North America, that's a lot. So we're hitting some high points and different things and trying to add to it, but it's mostly about the Illuminati. That's why the one of the playable new archetypes is an Illuminati operative, and then there's the the specific to like America, or at least ones that fit to bring into America, like the Mystic or the Boston Witch. You say Boston, obviously you mean America there. Is to give some options that feel like they flavor that up for that location. But no, there will be mentions of how those other factions are like the Illuminati are the main power in North America, but they're not the. It's not that the other factions aren't here. So we will try to add into like where they might have the opposing goals in certain areas, or and bring that up though. So
Okay. Let's see here. So Joseph, this is not a question. This is more of a comment. He said, and I'm hoping you can interpret this comment for me. He said, in my opinion, the dreamers are the answer to the Fermi paradox.
don't know what the Fermi paradox
Okay,
is. I
okay.
know what
I
the
wasn't sure if that was
dreamers are. Um,
well, explain who the dreamers are then. Maybe we can.
so the dreamers are they're called the dreamers because they are the things that the world engine, or Gaia, same thing, has been put to sleep, and they are these their dreams, so to speak, are leaking into this world, and that's where a lot of these creatures, chaos, and uh, the filth, so to speak, this dark sort of energy is coming into the world, and the way they view things is being brought to life into our world and affecting a lot of it. That's where a lot of these things are coming from. If they ever wake up, they will literally devour the world and we're dead. That's it. So that's why you want them to stay dreamers. But I'm not sure what the Fermi paradox is, so I think I've heard it, but I don't remember it.
Well, here's the Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox is the discrepancy between the lack of conclusive evidence of advanced extraterrestrial life and the apparently high likelihood of its existence.
Oh, okay. So they're back to the Area 51 thing. Like we in general, like if they dreamers travel and eat worlds, then if they existed and the dreamers have eaten other worlds, then that's why we don't see it. Maybe that's what they're saying.
Mm.
That would be a possible way to look at that. There is some stuff that Funcom spoke to me about when we first got into this, but it was all like, but don't talk about it. So some things like I know kind of more of an answer I think I could give to that, but I'm not allowed to say that.
Okay.
Until they tell me I can say that. So I'm.
They say you can say that they tell us that you know things that you aren't allowed to tell us.
Yeah, just like conspiracy theories.
Yeah. So they're just starting their own conspiracy theories.
A little bit.
So actually, that actually brings up another question I'm now having about what is that relationship with Funcom been like? I mean, working with a video game company who has a bunch of lore, and then making a tabletop role playing game out of lore for a video game.
I mean, overall, it's just really been a positive experience. It's still work. I mean, it's so they don't have like some guy assigned to answer all my questions
about lore and stuff.
It's whatever, they have people that have whatever, like their guys are working on Dune. And then I'm over here, can you help me with my RPG? I know you got Dune, which is slightly bigger and making millions probably when it comes out, but help me with my RPG. So, I mean, they do take their time. They've been really great. They get back to me in a reasonable time. They've largely approved anything I've asked for. They've approved for VTT, so that's coming.
Okay.
That's actually been started. I'm waiting I know I've started for Fantasy Grounds and I've also started for Foundry. Both of those things are for Savage Worlds right now because I'm looking at the 5e stuff and debating if I want to go back and rework a few things just because we've had time to look back where we started, and I don't want to start it and redo it. So Savage Worlds VTT is definitely coming.
Okay.
5e will come just later.
Gotcha. Very cool. So you said they're working on Dune. Is that like the Dune video game?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's sort of a survival game, similar in the same vein that their Conan game is.
Okay. I remember the Conan game from a while ago, but yes. Cool. Venkel asks, is there going to be any relic items in the North American book?
When you say relic, they don't mean talismans like the characters can use. You mean like major powerful items? Is that what they're asking?
Well, his example was Paul Bunyan's axe and John Henry's hammer.
Okay, so stuff like that. Possibly.
Wishlist item?
Yeah, that's probably one of those things that we might put towards the stretch goals. Or, I mean, it might be a little bit of both. I think we want to see is like we have a certain ideas what we want in the book, but some of those things might fit right in the book. It'll come down to space in the book. We plotted the book for about 150 pages.
Okay.
And we might say, hey, we still want to do it, but everything we put in that book, the more we do, the more the printing cost goes up. The more we have a. So I gave myself a little wiggle room in there. The estimate I gave me, so I can go up or down, 10 or 12 pages, which if you're adding relics, that's quite a few items you can add, Well, it just depends how things shake out. So possibly, yes.
Okay, cool. And just to give everyone like a idea, like relativity, the core rulebook is about 254 pages, or is, I say about, and I'll give like an exact number.
It's exactly
254 pages. Well, no, I'm wrong. There's 255. We got another page over here. Because the last two pages are all of the supporters, which Templars came on top, to be clear.
I mean, they should.
Yeah. So Templar, we have all our 254 page book. So the 150 page book is pretty. I think it's a pretty sizable book for an expansion book. And is that like the expectation, like what you're hoping to go for all the different regions you're planning doing?
To do 150 pages for each one?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the goal, is to kind of keep it consistent. I don't want to give like 100 page to the Dragon and then 300 pages to Templar.
Just
I want
make all the dragon fans like really unhappy.
they will remind me if I do not. But everybody has their favorite factions, so they will hope you give them equal love.
Yeah.
And that's about 150 pages roughly is the expectation. It could be 5-6 pages less, 10-12 pages more, but
Right. Yeah, approximately.
that's the
Yeah.
ballpark.
That's cool. And the alternate cover you guys are doing for this one is it's not an Illuminati cover, but it's got the Illuminati colors with like the um, North America
America. Mm-hmm.
outline, and it looks really really nice. I have to make sure. I maybe have to double check my pledge, make sure I actually backed that one. So I would like to get. I'm imagining like all of my special covers just like lining up next to each other and
Yeah,
looking really nice.
that's what they look like on my bookshelf. Because I
So
order a proof copy of everything, so I get everything that anyone can order. I have at least one of. So
cool. All right, so I'm gonna go on to these non questions about non questions about Secret World, and Hamster Doom wants to know if the yellow guy in your background picture, if that is supposed to be an homage to Morn from DS9.
no, but I've heard that before. That character is named Kaz Lodan, and that is a mix-up of the artist Zach Dolan, who did almost all the art in Starbreaker,
Okay.
and he passed away and I believe it was a heart attack, and he had drawn that picture, and everyone wants to know, are you going to make that species in the game? I said nope, that only exists as that one. It will never be anyone else. Although there is sort of another character that looks kind of like it. It looks like a doctor in the cybernetic thing that I believe we're saying is also the same character. That's just him after work having a drink.
There you go.
So that's
Yeah,
the homage that way.
I don't know what is going on lately, but I feel like I've been hearing about DS9 everywhere lately.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like here, I was in a Discord server earlier today that was talking about Star Trek and specifically DS9, and I was watching a live stream for like YouTubers, like to help us, to learn stuff, and they're talking about DS9. Like, what is going on with DS? And I'm watching DS9 right now, to be clear, so maybe I'm just seeing it everywhere. But
It's probably just more in your mind, and maybe your internet algorithm is finding out that you watched it.
something like that, yeah, yeah. I'm in like season 5 of DS9, so cool. So and then going back to, I want to talk about Starbreaker real quick because I want to know.
Okay.
I know that you guys are still getting. I believe you're still getting proofs for the core rulebook, correct?
Yeah, I ordered the original core rulebook, and we had included a page we should not have, which offset things like, it's a mistake because we're still kind of new and we were not going to set it out like this. But what happened is we had a 2-page spread, and because we did that, it ended up being back to back, and it also like where you're supposed to see the species on the left, their description on the right.
Right.
Now that's all reversed. I was like, well, I can't. You could still play it. It's perfectly serviceable.
Sure,
like
sure.
that, but it would not look right. So I just reordered the proofs. They should be here in about, depending on how fast drive-through RPG is, 2 to 3 weeks, and then I'll just hit the code to everyone. They should be fine because everything else is pretty good. I fixed a couple other small minor typo errors we had found during that time, but yeah, they're on the
Sweet.
way soon.
I'm excited to get those. Very excited.
I mean, I do have, you know,
Show off your
this-
physical copies. No,
yeah,
we
it's just-
want it. That's what we want.
it looks great. I mean, I love it. I mean, let's see if I can. Yeah, because the way my screen works, it won't show anything.
Yeah, you're good.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
I think my Monday game. We might be, when we're done with our current fantasy game, we're planning on going to a sci-fi game. And I think our GM is thinking about running Starbreaker for that game. So
Your GM has great taste.
we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping so. I think the main thing is I want to get her a physical copy of the book to her so she can read through it and decide. So, all right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions. Do you have anything else you want to talk about when it comes to Secret World and the Kickstarter?
Just for those that didn't notice, I mean, you'll see a lot of people have asked the question. We've tried to make this as clear as possible. You're kickstarting, you're getting the PDF.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, you will pay the cost. If you want a physical book, which you can get, you pay for that cost of printing and shipping. We don't get that money. That goes to the printers. So, that just clear it. We've tried to put as much in there, clear that up, but that is a question that comes up sometimes. And the other thing is, if you can share on your social media, small indie publishers, I mean, we pay for advertising, but we can't pay like the big ones, and we don't have that massive following. I mean, Pinnacle's amazing. They put out a project to get like 5,000 backers. They've been around for 20 plus years. They have a huge following. We're still small, so if we get 2,000 backers for something like the Secret World did the one time, and we're ecstatic. So, but that only happens when you guys out there share it and tell your friends about it and get the word out for us. And that's what really helps. If you comment on a post is more helpful than if you like a post.
Yeah.
Drives it to the top.
Better
of the page.
engagement.
All that kind of stuff. It just that's what helps us the most, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. Just to clarify, a few of the things I noticed is that people were, and just let all the viewers out there know, when you back it, you just back what level you want, and then there'll be a survey later asking for what version you want, 5e or Savage Worlds.
Right.
And then we'll get your PDF versions for whatever you asked for, and then like we're talking about for Starbreaker right now, is that eventually when they have everything done and it's proofed by, they got all the proof versions from Drive Through RPG, discount codes go out so that you can get it at cost for printing.
Whatever the cost of print is, that's what you pay.
Yep. And so the only money that these guys are getting is the money through the Kickstarter, and then minus whatever Kickstarter takes, obviously.
Yeah,
so.
Which is a chunk. When we now afterwards, if you go buy the book on Drive Through RPG, of course after the
right.
There's always a cut there too. But this is one of the companies. This is when we benefit the most as a company. It's where we get the big funding, so to speak, to do the projects and everything after that.
Right.
So, unless you all go buy 10,000 copies of our book.
I mean, hey. Todd DeWitt asks, "Is this like the Alternity Dark Matter campaign setting?" Which I'm not familiar with.
Dark Matter was like it very similar to an X-Files type of campaign setting and stuff. I mean, it would be a good comparison. It is not the same, but if you liked Dark Matter, you would probably like the Secret World.
Okay.
If you like Call of Cthulhu, you'll probably like the Secret World. Now, if you want it to be really, really normal people against the cosmic threats, then it's not for you. I mean, because it's there's some options now, but generally speaking, the game does focus on high-powered people fighting big-powered monsters and threats or other conspiracies, which it's more cerebral. But yeah, if you like Dark Matter, you'd probably like this.
Cool. And then Vinkel asked another question: is there any core add-on for the base Secret Worlds? Oh, I think it's about the Kickstarter. The answer is, I think the question is basically, can you get the core rulebook as an add-on?
If you just want the core rulebook from the original Kickstarter, like you're picking up this, but you don't have the first book from that we already did, that add-on is available there. You can pick up book.
Yeah. There's also a level, isn't there, for that?
There's a level that has everything. Everything from the previous Kickstarter, which if you did not back before, that's a really good deal we put in there to just make it so people can easily catch up at a slightly better price. $150, you get everything we're offering from before. The only thing I think we didn't include, and I'm not 100% sure, I don't think I included the audio dramas in the everything package this time for whatever reason. They're still out there, but you're not required to play the game. So
sure. Yeah. Todd DeWitt asks, "Is there a conspiracy generator?"
We do have an adventure generator, not so much a conspiracy generator, though. If you use that, you might find some, whys and reasons to make it that way. So for inspiration.
Yeah.
We do have it. That's in the core book, for the original one. But we are talking about doing some things like how to frame your adventures or missions or whatever in the vein of the Illuminati a little bit more with this book. Again, that won't necessarily be many, many pages, but there will be a little bit of that. And they're like, what would be the difference between that and say other factions? We'll focus a little on that here.
Gotcha. Cool. So thinking about this book, and we talked about this a little bit. The general expectation is that usually all of the characters are going to be part of one faction. Not necessarily, but generally speaking, that's the one of the assumptions. Is that an accurate statement?
We set it up to where it could be either or.
Okay.
The understanding we kind of in the book said it this way that it can be fun to play interfaction rivalries and conspiracies against each other. Make sure you set aside and talk to the players as players. I want to do this. Are you on board? And if that's going to be a problem, then maybe you should just play a single faction game. That's each group's
Sure.
decision to make. I've played in groups where they did a fantastic job of keeping player and character stuff separate, and really did. And there's some games where people can't handle that, and it's not fun for them. So, um, but yeah, the assumption is not either or, but we do present a lot of stuff as mixed just because we don't know which faction you're going to choose. So
Sure.
if you do a single faction, my
Sure.
wife just said Illuminati though because that's her favorite.
Okay. Well, there you go, Kender. Illuminati is Brandon's wife's favorite, just not Brendan's favorite. All right. Well, I don't have any more questions at this point. I'm excited to. I've already like I said I've already backed the one level. I need to double check the backing level I did to make sure I get the one that gets the core, the nice fancy cover. But I've already backed it. But you should everyone else check it out. Hopefully, this gives you an insight into whether or not this is something that you're interested in. I'm not going to tell you, go back if you're not interested in. If you're not interested in this kind of game, don't back it. But if you
Yeah.
are interested in this kind of game, which I personally am a big like. I think you mentioned X Files earlier. Like I enjoyed X Files. I like monster hunting shows. I've Supernatural and then like we always thought that they doing some sort of there's an organization in the Supernatural show that's to me makes me think of like Masonic and stuff.
Hmm.
I always thought it'd be fun to play this like when those like really high tech organizations that's fighting monsters, and I think this is the game for that. So, without further ado, I don't see anything else. Joseph Faber did want to say that he thinks you're awesome. I saw some other similar comments from John Doom and such. So,
Thanks, guys. Thought you said some background questions, but if they're nothing,
well, that was
anything
the
else,
background question was just about the Norm or not Norm.
Oh, got it. Okay, I was like, make sure I understood what the question was. Okay, all right, then I guess we did everything.
Yeah. Your little like background on your video.
No, okay, that one.
That one over there. All right. Well, thank you all. You all have a great day. Thanks, Brandon, for talking, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday over at Savage Universe.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Brandon. Have a good day. I'm gonna stop the stream.